Stephen Presson, thank you so much for coming in today. Good to see you.
Well, I just want to be completely upfront with you. The only reason I came is I haven't seen you in a while, and I actually wanted to see one of those big fat ties that you wear.
I know you would like it.
You didn't disappoint me. So
Double Windsor just for you.
man, pretty sweet, pretty sweet.
So it's great. I've known you since like 2008. So you've been in the business 13 years. I met you your first year in the business,
Yep.
right around that time frame. And like what I love about you is like your passion for the real estate industry. And I remember the very first time I chatted with you, you had a business plan mapped out, a
Yep.
process, a method, and you're just super genuine and passionate. And that's really why I like you as a person, and I think you're just an amazing agent. Speaking of amazing agent, I just saw your stats. Number 11 in Palm Beach County, number 52 in the state of Florida, and number 492 in the country. So killing it this year. Excellent job, man.
No, thanks very much. No, it's been great.
So for some people that might not know you, tell us just a little bit about the kind of the area that you're working with in, and kind of your target area, and a little bit about your business.
Yeah, basically I started just right before the market crashed in 2008. So it was around 2006 I started, and I found something. I just genuinely, like you said, and I always say I never really reached my success as a business person before then. I think I had a lot of potential, but kind of like in sports, if you're put in the wrong spot or wrong position, sometimes you never reach what you're capable of. And until I got to real estate, that happened. I knew really within a couple weeks that I just found something I loved. You're working with people. I always wanted to add value. One of the big things I've always said from day one is, and I did a lot of research before I looked into real estate, and a lot of people whose opinions I valued, quite frankly, give me reasons not to do it. They've known a lot of successful people who've tried. It's a cutthroat business.
Yep.
It's this, it's that. There's a lot of people who don't have the highest level of integrity. And those were all the reasons that, quite frankly, I did it. Because if everyone was doing it the right way, at the highest level of integrity, truly, genuinely chasing relationships, well then, geez, you get a lot of competition out there. But I thought that if I went out there, worked hard, hopefully worked smart, added value, truly cared about your clients, really wanting to be a difference maker, and also a big theme, I had it from day one, is I just didn't want to be like every other realtor. I wanted to be where someone, when they saw your name, it came with respect, that people looked at you differently, that you did it the right way. Yep. And if you do those kind of things, and it doesn't have to be real estate, it could be anywhere in life you're going to be successful. So I started, and really the first year or so, it was kind of like not really trying to get into an area, but trying to get my name out there. And I spent a lot of time working in the business community, networking. That's how we met, through networking, different type of platforms, getting your name out there, getting your face, building relationships, working with trust and estate attorneys, CPAs, bankers, and just getting out there, and the opportunities were all over. I used to refer to myself as a traveling realtor. I just got on 95, and I had some listings up in Martin County, and I had listings down in Fort Lauderdale, and a little bit of everything in between. So the first 2 years was just kind of like really getting my feet wet, trying to get my confidence, building a good base behind me, knowing the industry, understanding it. And then once it got going, then you kind of work within the areas that you live and work. I lived in Ocean Ridge for a long time, for about 12 years, became a part of that community. And basically the areas that I cover now are really from south of Palm Beach. So basically Manalapan, Hypoluxo Island, Ocean Ridge, Gulf Stream, a little bit of East LA, and every once in a while I'll do something in Boca Raton on the water, or somewhere around there.
And I know like your marketing and what you've done over the years is you're just super consistent. Mm-hmm. Like year after year.
That's the biggest word.
It's the same thing. Yep. You're executing,
Yep.
and it's just consistency over time. Can you talk about consistency in the real estate
business?
It's
funny you said one of my favorite words. It's really consistency. And I tell people, and I mentor a lot of agents all the time, it's not a get-rich-quick business at all. It takes time, consistency, persistence. There's a financial part that you got to invest in it, into yourself, into your business. It takes time. You don't build. There's no business out there you could buy that you're gonna, from day one, it's gonna be a financial success. It's time, effort, it's ups and downs. It's running into a lot of walls. It's kissing a lot of frogs before you find a prince or princess or whatever it is. Yep. It takes time, but consistency is the biggest word. And a lot of times you have to. For me, I had a vision of a long term where I knew I was going to make it in this business. I didn't know to what level, but I felt like I could do it and do it extremely well. And I was invested, and I believed in it from day one. And But were there a lot of times along the way where, geez, I can remember actually, here's a great story. My first year, after about 15 months in the business, I had built about $10 to $12 million in buyer opportunities. And every single one of them fell through within a week, and nothing that I would have had control over. And you build up, and you're working so hard. And I spent $80,000, out of my own pocket the first year to, so that was the financial part. Forget the fact that I was out on the road every day at 6:30, 7 a.m. and just running around and trying to get my name and face out there and meeting relationships. But I remember that day, walking along the beach in Ocean Ridge, and I can remember feeling, a little bit distraught or disappointed, like anybody would. But I also remember saying to myself that, it's going to happen. And I can remember within 2 months, I listed about $12 million in opportunities, all within a week period. And but yeah, there's a lot of times along the way you get kicked in the stomach, punched in the mouth, but you just got to keep plugging. Yep. And if you believe it, it'll work. This business works. It's I could sit here and tell you all the things that I've done. I don't think I've invented anything that no one else hasn't thought of before. Yep. But what I've tried to do is always put my personal touch on it. I try to do it at the highest level. I have a saying in this business, especially when I mentor agents, if you're going to put your name on something, everything you do is a business card, whether it be a brochure, a mailer. I want the best photographer. I want the best photography. I want their clients that, when we do a brochure, and not just a standard one, it's a 3-ply panel over, that I want the owner, the homeowner, to be proud of it, that when their next door neighbor comes in, they say, oh, wow, look what my realtor did. And all those little things add up. So if you're going to do something, I say do it 100% right. Don't be like everyone else, and let the chips fall where they may from there.
If somebody's starting out in the business or it's their first year in the business, what would be the time frame that you say, listen, you have to give it at least how much time?
Candidly, I think it has to be a 3-year investment, because I tell people the first year you're just ramping up. You might get lucky along the way. And if you do, count it as a blessing, but you can't bank on it. So the first year you're ramping up. The second year, so year 1 through year 2, then you're building opportunities, relationships. You're getting entrenched in an area, and then you need another year where all those relationships you were working on, just because you and I had a relationship the first year, doesn't mean you're selling your home. Doesn't mean you're So then you got to put yourself in different sales cycles. And so I think it really takes about 36 months. I think it could be done a little sooner. But I think it's a 3-year commitment, and if you can do it earlier, you can reach some success. Then, good for you. But you can't count on it. It takes time. Just like there's a saying in sales: you don't build a relationship without touching a client or a prospect 5, 6, 7 times. Well, those 5, 6, 7 times could be spread out over a 2-3 year period, and then there's got to be an opportunity for that person to need to do something in the real estate market.
What was that moment where you felt like, wow, I think I found my calling. Like I think where I'm really hitting my stride. I'm starting to really crank up my business. Like, what was that moment for you?
Well, there was a couple ones. There was one very early on, which I just, without ever getting a listing, without ever going on a listing appointment, but had doing it a couple months and just getting a sense of the business and meeting people and building relationships. I knew early on within the first couple months, I felt like I could do this, and I think I could do it at a really high level. So that was really kind of important. I had the confidence from day one that I could do this, and I thought we could make a good run at it. So that was early on. There's a couple times along the way. I think for me there was a turning point where then I got to another level in my career where I was probably doing close to about, within 5 years, I was doing a good book of business, maybe about $20 million a year. Mm-hmm. But I also looked at, there's a lot of people out there that were way above me, that were doing 50, 75, 100 million. And I kind of felt like, all right, I got to that point, and that was terrific. And by the way, if someone's out there listening and you're doing $10 to $20 million a year in real estate, that's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. But I had a bigger goal. I wanted to reach further. And I was telling you earlier, my first goal after that was I wanted to hit 30 million. Then I wanted to hit 50 million. Then I wanted to hit 75 million. And then the last part of it is I wanted to have a 10-year run where I'm going to average $100 million a year in real estate. And now I'm on course. I'm on course for that. But there was a time a couple years ago where when I had those internal discussions with myself, that I knew that I needed to take it to another level. That what I was doing was good enough to get me the 20 million, But if I really wanted to reach the levels that I was shooting for,
Yep.
that I went out, got a new car, someone mentioned my wardrobe wasn't as impressive as they thought it should be. And, I took it to heart, quite frankly. And I said,
can teach you how to tie
I didn't listen to you on that. I'll tell you that. I didn't go to you for that. But, I went out there and completely redid my website. Then I looked at all my marketing, and then we just completely kicked it up to a whole different level where it was so specific. Like, for example, we targeted homes in Palm Beach County that were $5 million and above that were on the market for, let's say, over 270 days. So we know typically a listing is going to expire. Typically, a listing agreement's about a year for that type of a property. Yep. So we would create very elaborate marketing campaigns geared to those properties with the idea that they might expire soon. And we ended up getting, a fair share of those. But it was those kind of things. Another thing that we did was, again, I always wanted to be different, and really, truly, from a consumer perspective, I wanted people to say, like, wow, like, this guy's adding value to the community. We've created websites that promote the towns. Like, for example, a lot of the towns that I work in, Ocean Ridge, Gulfstream, and Alapan, they're small little niche towns. If you're in New York somewhere or California, you know Palm Beach, you know Boca Raton, you know Delray Beach. Right. You don't know Ocean Ridge, you don't know Gulfstream, you don't know Hypoluxo Island. The only reason you might is if you have a friend or a family member that you might have heard of, lived there through the years. So those little towns need some promoting, and there's an educational piece and component that we tried to add in different mediums to educate the market, and also educate brokers on what great little niche towns these are, and the value that they bring along the coast. And it's not just Palm Beach and not just Boca Raton. So one of the things we did was early on was we created a nice little coffee table book for the town of Ocean Ridge. It was nothing about me or promoting myself or Stephen Presson sold this or that. It was really a nice coffee table piece with beautiful aerials, pictorials, historic components of the town, nice. Local stores. It was about a $12,000 investment for the first one I did. We mailed it to every single resident in the town. In Ocean Ridge, there's 550 single-family homes. Every one of those homeowners received one of their books, and I used to take pride. To this day, I'll still walk into a house and our book will be on their coffee table. So it's doing things like that just kind of set yourself apart. There's nothing for me to earn by doing that, other than hopefully adding some value where people appreciate what you're doing. So it's those kind of things that can go a long way with people.
Well, what I'm hearing you saying is constantly reinventing your business plan. Like when you hit 30, when you hit 50, you're constantly reinventing yourself, and then you're taking massive action. I think that's the hardest thing. Like we get in this comfortable kind of place, where you're like, wow, I'm doing well, things are consistent, everything's good, but you have bigger goals, you want to grow. But in order to do that, you have to change your business plan completely around, maybe add team members, and then take massive action. And you executed on that. I love that. That's really good stuff. What about an agent that wants to break into the luxury market? Actually, before we get into that, why don't we just talk a little bit about what's going on in the luxury markets right now in South Florida?
Well, I think you could say generally the markets are just doing tremendous all across the board, whether it be a golf community out west of the Turnpike, $300,000 townhome cookie cutter community, or along the coast. I mean, the real estate market in Florida, I don't think it's ever been better, and I don't know if we can ever replicate what we've seen in the last year or so. We've been extremely fortunate. It's a lot different than 2008. 2008 was kind of ramped up by, it was kind of like fake. It was a fake market in a sense. This one's really real. I mean, we're seeing, all the big financial companies, a lot of them moving down here, moving their headquarters down here. When that comes, all their executives, family members. So we're seeing a lot of. And we used to always talk about, the tax implication to come to Florida. Tell you the truth, that's up there, but that's maybe second or third on the list right now, and then and the tax savings alone. Geez, if you're out in California, you're paying 13, 14%, income tax, and it's zero down here. That's a huge savings. Forget that. But now I think it's more about the quality of life. It's about the beaches. For companies that, Wall Street companies. I mean, if you knew the numbers that they paid on their executive leases, they're coming down here looking in buildings like Esperante and West Palm Beach and those types for a fraction of the cost. Companies have restructured, so now you don't have to live in New York in the cold weather if you don't want to. You can be here in Florida full year round and travel at your leisure, and your cost of business, your cost of sales, all those things are down. So I think candidly, I've always been very realistic about the market. I don't try to at this time, it's really tough not to be really, really enthusiastic and bullish on it, because I don't see, could it correct itself a little bit? Yeah, but compared to what we had seen the last year, there was no rhythm and rhyme for a lot of things. And the good news about our markets now is, especially along the coast, is I feel like they've jumped up minimum 20 to 25%. And there's enough comps at every single price point, whether you're a landlocked home in a little town like Ocean Ridge, or intercoastal, or on a canal, and Manalapan or Hypoluxo Island. There's more than enough comps to support all the new price points that we have. So it's just not like we had a quick burst. Right. It was now, we're seeing a lot of consistency in the market, and I don't see a drop off at the moment. I don't see it for a while. A lot of good things. So I think it's a great time.
I kind of echo that comment, and we're seeing that a lot now too with appraisals. For a while, we were seeing appraisals coming in low, kind of consistently low, because there wasn't enough comps.
Yep.
Now we're seeing appraisals hit. Yeah. There's a lot of comps out there, and a lot of people are paying cash or waiving appraisal contingency, paying over. Yeah. So it's creating a good market for comparables.
Yeah. This is the first time I've been in this business where buyers have actually said to me that they've overpaid. No one ever likes to admit that. I don't care how much money you have. It's something there's a pride factor, and not. Now it's a cost of doing business to get in here, because it's extremely competitive, and you got to be able to structure offers in ways to separate yourself from the pack. Because if something comes on today, it's somewhat in the ballpark of being priced right. It's a fairly new product, or it's been well redone recently. Those things are in demand, and buyers are willing to pay a premium for it. And if they do overpay a little bit, it's okay, because they achieve their goal. Maybe because previously they get shut out of a couple. So.
Do you think the value increases are primarily being driven by lack of inventory, or a combination of?
I think it's a combination of everything. I just think our areas are just more marketable now, and so much more in desire. We have, not to get into the political scene, but we have a lot of people coming from California for different reasons. Yep. We have people coming from Chicago for different reasons, and we've always had that New York marketplace down here along the coast as prospective buyers. So I think our buyer pools have increased, and I think just South Florida in general is being viewed more favorably as not only a place to raise your family, but move your business, and all those things just really sustain long-term growth. This isn't knee-jerk. These companies are signing 50-year leases, and they're not going anywhere. So
right.
I think and there's only so much, so example, in the little towns that I work in, Ocean Ridge is 500 single-family homes. Gulfstream has like 220. These are small little niche towns. So if you want to get in there, it's not like you have a lot of inventory to choose from, even if it were a market where there were more homes for sale.
Yep. So an agent out there that wants to break into luxury, maybe they've been in the business a couple of years, they're selling some properties, getting a little bit of consistency in their business, but they really want to break into the Lux market. What advice would you give them?
Well, here's one thing that maybe you can't or can't do, but it really helps to live in a marketplace that you want to work in. It just opens up this whole business, as we all know, is all about relationships. So just by luck, when I first got married, my first home was in Ocean Ridge, and at that time I used to kid around and say, and I wasn't in real estate then, so I had no real estate foresight whatsoever, but I think we bought like the cheapest home in Ocean Ridge at that time. And it just happened to work out really well for me. So by the time I got into real estate, I was in a small little luxury beach town where I'd built some relationships. My kids were going to eventually go to one of the private schools in the area. I became a member of a couple of the social clubs. So I already had, not as a name as a realtor, but as a person, I had a little bit of notoriety in that marketplace. So I think being there, it's really difficult and I can give you examples of people who failed, that you say you want to be a Palm Beach broker and you live out in Wellington. It's extremely hard. I mean, when you're a fabric of the community, when I go to Publix, I run into people all the time, and they're clients, and they become friends, or friends then clients, or clients then friends. When you go to church, your kids go to school, then you belong to the social club. So the more people you can meet in this business, and hopefully in a right way, the better you are. Another thing I always tell people in this business, when you get into it, you're only as good as, it's kind of like baseball. You need a couple swings at the bat. You need to be out there. And one of the first things I notice when I see a new agent, I always tell them, if I drive by the office and I see your car in the parking lot during the day, I said, you could do all the Excel spreadsheet reports that you want, but that's not going to help drive your business. You can do that stuff at nighttime. You can hopefully have maybe you have a team member, or, depending on how you're aligned.
Yep.
But during the day, you need to be out there running around, and there's a lot of way. Here's something that was really huge for me. It was great advice from my broker who hired me. Was he said, you need to get out, and I wanted me to join the Palm Beach Rotary Club. And I didn't know what the Rotary Club was. And then once you look it up, it's the largest networking organization in the world. They're accredited with curing polio, and they're all over the world and all different luxury markets. And, I went there and joined that club. I was a member for, I think, a little over 10 years. I ended up serving on the education committee, the scholarship committee for 4 years. We had a very large endowment. I ended up becoming a president for 2 years, built a lot of great friendships to this day, met a lot of really cool, neat people, and just by an accident of building some relationships, some people asked me to handle some business opportunities for them over the years. It happened naturally, and to me, that's the best way to do it. But I found something where there was a common denominator with the people in the room. There was a common cause. It was about building friendships and adding value, and met a lot of great people. So, in fact, one of the people I met, and one of my favorite people was someone who invented the chocolate-covered pretzel. I mean, how cool was that? I mean,
Legend.
So, yeah, but, you take something that's really kind of cool, but just one of the sweetest people I'd ever met, and eventually sold a home for her on Palm Beach on the island at one point down the road. So, put yourself out there, get involved, find things that you believe in. Like I had some opportunities where people asked me to be a board member for another local charity, and I did it for all the right reasons, because you want to make a difference. It's an honor that someone would ask you to do it. But after a year or two, it just wasn't a cause that I had passion about, so I respectfully walked away, because it's got to be something that you believe in. It's got to be something that you believe in. So find stuff that you like. I was involved with Food for the Poor for a couple of years, Healthy Mothers, Healthy Babies, Palm Beach Rotary Club. We did a lot of stuff within the community at the local YMCAs. Find something you like, something you believe in, where it's not work, you look forward to it, and then good stuff. So it's about getting out there, hopefully adding value. Really know your business. Here's some great advice that I did the first year in the business. I had a fear, because I had this fear in other careers. I never wanted anyone to look at me from day one and question how much experience I had, or that I was green, or I didn't know the business. So one of the first things I did my first year in the business, every single night I would go on the Palm Beach Post. They had a great real estate blog, they still do, and I would read news and notes every single day, and I would just capture like the first 2 cents, like the average median sales price in 1998 was $442,000, and it went up 3%. I had all these little bullet points, and every single day I would go back before I read a new article and just quickly, that one sentence reminder where it was engraved in my mind. So when I was out in the community, I could talk with confidence, because those things were just kind of, coming naturally to me. Yeah. And you got to, everything you do is, I'm very aggressive from a marketing perspective, in the sense that, in some months I've spent $20,000 a month between direct mail, print advertising, all the things that we do to get our name out there, hopefully in a positive way. And I tell people, everything that I do, I'm not going to knock on doors. I don't cold call. I don't call expired listings. I want people to hopefully see the value that I can bring, where they'll want to reach out to me. Yep. And so everything I do, running around, all the networking I've done, all the money that I've spent, all the time and energy, is geared towards when someone comes to me, and it could be at a club, it could be at Publix, because it's happened in all these situations. It could be anywhere. It could be at a networking event, where all of a sudden everyone loves to talk real estate, and they'll ultimately bring up a real estate topic, and that's where you can shine. And so if you don't have like the substance behind you, well, right, then you get classified as like, well, another realtor. And everybody knows plenty of those. And by the way, everyone knows a lot of realtors, but how many realtors do you know that really know their business, that maybe you think do it in the right way, that market, promote, that is a full-time business? How many of those do you know? And then maybe that list shrinks a little bit, and then ultimately you just want to be on the list. So you get opportunities in this business all the time, but if you're not prepared, then you've lost it. And a lot of those opportunities, people aren't even maybe smart enough to realize at the time. You don't know who you're talking to, but everyone is involved in a real estate transaction at some point in your life. Yep. And I never walk around holding my business card. I feel like I've spent the money, the time, the effort, where maybe people will want to come to me, and then it's a whole different conversation as opposed to where there's other agents, and you know what, it's a style that works for them, much more aggressive, you know, the types that could be at a social event and they're chasing the who's who. I have no idea who's there, quite frankly, and I really don't, you know, I don't even pay attention to it. But ultimately, I would love to have those people come to me because they've seen, whether it be through my reputation, seen through my marketing. You know, when people have said to me over the years, "Oh, I see your signs everywhere," that's when, or I see your ads everywhere. Yep. That's when I know I'm winning. And I've always said, when people, if the day ever comes where they're like, "Oh man, whatever happened to that Stephen Presson? I don't see his ads anymore. I don't see his listings." You know, then I know I'm in trouble. And that's the one thing that drives me every day, that I'll never ever, you know, it's a fear that I never want to see happen.
It's a long game.
It's
a long game.
And it goes back to that consistency that we talked about earlier.
Yep.
Another big component, which we touched on, is getting back to running around. And if you want to get in the luxury market, you can't get bogged down doing all the little stuff. And I remember when I first got in the business, I remember one time there was an agent, I overheard him talking about me. They're like, "How could this guy ever do any business? He can't even write a contract." And you know what? He's 100% right. I couldn't write a contract. If I did it, it would take me all day to do it. I'd lose like 10 pounds. I'd be sweating. My shirt would be a mess. But I was smart enough, I think, to realize that I would hire and pay people to do that because, one, I don't like doing it. Two, it bogs me down. And three, it keeps me from getting out there, running around, and doing the things that you really ultimately need to be doing. You know, you are your best asset. And if your asset is sitting in an office, it's not helping you build business during the day. You can do that stuff at nighttime if it has to be. So you need to get a team around you. Have someone who can, you know, handle, you know, especially as you're growing your business and you get the 10 million and 20 million, you want to get what they need to have the resources around you, the team structured around you. Where, you know, right now I have 2 people that handle my admin. I have a webmaster. I have a social media person. I have a writer who's done every one of my write-ups really since I've started. And so it allows me to just answer the phone and show up, which is the part I absolutely love, and also keep my eye on the marketing piece. Just make sure that we're headed in the right direction. So having a team is extremely important. Yep. And it doesn't mean you have to bring someone on full time. There's a lot of ways to do it. There's people you can pay on a per transaction basis. Yep. That is the best investment. It's worth the couple $100 you might make because it's going to free you up. If you're really using your time wisely, it's going to free you up to go out there and hopefully win and earn more business.
At what volume do you suggest getting a full-time team member?
You know, I don't know. I would think when you get over 30 million, I think you're going to need some assistance. You know, because really, you know, one of the biggest things. Here's something that's extremely important. It ties into what you're asking. Is people rate you by the experience. Like if you, with all the money that I spend. If you really want to know where I get all my business from, it's the way you handle people and situations. And so if you're not there, then you're losing opportunity or face-to-face time with the future. You know how many properties I've sold over the years where I've sold them a property 6 years ago with another realtor from Miami. Mm-hmm. They came up here, and when it came time when they sold their property, they're going to look back and remember who they were, who was the listing agent, how was that experience. Right. You want to truly make that I try to make the experience as easy for buyers as brokers. You want to be flexible, reasonable. You want to be extremely transparent. You know, those things are huge in earning and building respect and relationships, you know, in a real estate career. So, you know, that stuff's really, really, really important.
Yep, absolutely. And what I love about what you do too is you still show up the majority of your listings. Yeah. And I think any agent could probably attest, anybody who's brought a buyer to one of your listings, that you're probably the best salesperson to sell that listing. Like, you know the area, you know the property, you know exactly how to sell that property. Could you talk a little bit to that?
Yeah, I don't really consider myself a salesperson, quite frankly. I really try to consider myself more of a consultant, where ultimately I just want to give the buyer, maybe the agent that they're working with, all the information they need. And, you know, typically, it's important to sell the lifestyle. And, you know, I have a saying in this business: houses are going to sell themselves. A good broker, the value is getting a deal done. That's where you can speak numbers, values, price, comps, you know, the relevance to the market, where it is, where it's headed. You know, that's a value of a really good broker. But the part that goes often overlooked is really selling the area, the lifestyle, you know, being able to talk about, you know, every buyer has different needs. You know, so if it's a young family moving to the area, they don't know the private schools in the areas that I work in. And when you can add some value and some insight on that, that is a huge, huge, huge piece of component because that's just something else that they're dealing with. The house part's kind of like the easy. Where are my kids going to go to school? Where are we going to go to eat? Where are we going to socialize? Where are our friends going to be? You know, all those kind of things. There's so many components that go into it. But if you can, I've had years where, or situations where, you know, a young family came in with an aspiring tennis player, you know, and they needed to know where's the best place to do the junior tennis. Well, I play a little bit of tennis over the years, so I know quite a bit about that. They're interested in the social clubs. You can educate them on the different clubs in each town and the different personalities and, you know, maybe advise or consult in letting them know what might be a good fit. You can let them know where the Publix grocery store is. You know, I've had clients over the years who've asked me once they build a trust and they realize that you can maybe hopefully add some value, they're asking me for a doctor and an internist or a dentist or a handyman or, you know, I tell people, you know, I want to help you make it as easy as possible. Another thing we've done over the years is, and every situation is different. I had a client that was coming from New York, loved the house in Ocean Ridge, and it needed some work to make it what he wanted. And he had an agent that came out of the area who wouldn't have had any relationships with any of the local contractors. And so I knew that was a big component. So I spoke to the agent, and that was the only disconnect for him moving forward. So I asked, you know, could I have a conversation with your broker? And for the reasons that I just spoke, he's sure, absolutely, because I know he wants it. And, you know, I went in there and helped him find all the contractors. We got quotes in the inspection period. And literally by the time that property closed on the second day, he had like 4 contractors at his house. So we made it completely turnkey, easy. It was extremely efficient. And it just wasn't being a realtor writing up a sales contract and collecting deposits and showing up at inspections. It was really being a difference maker because without that sale never would have happened. Because now had that buyer bought a property in that agent's area where he specialized, then he would have had all the resources in place. He didn't in the area that house was. So he liked the house, had some fears, and then once we built and he knew that I could genuinely help him and would carry through with it, you know, we got that sale, done. So all those things are so important. You know, looking for what everyone has a different hotspot. And I always say my job is to try to figure it out and try to make it as easy, as simple as possible. And the other thing too is, you know, I know that agents have a little bit of fear of kind of like fudging the truth a little bit or kind of looking the other way. I believe in complete transparency, and because nothing bad. And by the way, there's nothing when I show up at an inspection. There's nothing that scares me. You know, do you like to deal with it every single day? No, of course not. But you know what? There's nothing that we can't solve. There isn't a solution that we can't find if everyone's reasonable and fair. And you know, so just kind of transparency is huge. Is huge. And don't look the other way. Don't act like you didn't know or you know or you know. Be transparent because there's solutions for every single thing. You just got to be able to sometimes take that client, hold them by the hand, and walk them through it a little bit.
Man, we're dropping some bombs in here, some good stuff, Mr. Presson. Jeez. So listen, we're pretty much out of time, but I know you're already over 100 million. So what? Yeah. So we have 2 months left. What are you going to end up at? What do you think?
You know what? Truthfully, don't even know. The only reason I know our numbers where they are is because someone else tells me. You know, the truth is. I don't really focus on that. I just focus on getting the next one done. Like to me, and I was thinking about this earlier on my way in here, is I get as much joy, and I know people are going to say like, "You're full of it," but I just get joy out of getting something done. Especially when you know they're very rarely is this business ever cut and dry. There's so much to it. There's an emotional component. There's different personalities. Everyone's got different goals. And to me, the fun part, the exciting part is always getting it done. So that's the part that I chase. So to me, like the next thing is, you know, hopefully we'll get 5 more deals by the end of the year, or 7 or 8 more deals. I don't know how much they're going to be, but to me, that's the part that gets me excited because you just feel good. But I think we'll end up at an okay number for sure.
I think you'll do all right this year. Well, hey man, it was great sitting down with you. I love your passion. I love how you're super genuine, and I love seeing your growth over the years. It's just
you too, buddy.
Super proud of you, man.
You too. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, take care.